Today, we are going to break down one very similar opening as Black Lion, but it's a little bit different because you can't use it every single time, depends also on the white moves. But if white goes for that variation, we'll take a look how that looks like. So it's actually coming from the Sicilian. We know that Black Lion, you're setting up your pieces d6, knight f6, knight bd7, pushing e5, and later on you are achieving this powerful attack with h6 and g5. But here we are actually playing Sicilian Defense, and we are playing this move knight c6, and this is the opening Rosalimo. In Rosalimo attack for white, the variation that can lead to this setup of Black Lion is this move g6, and also you can play the move knight f6. But I think g6 is the most efficient way to get this setup, because many players, when they play the move bishop b5, they simply take on c6, and now it's really important to take back with a d pawn. I know that elementary school of chess teaches you that you should take to the center, but in this line we take from the center because we want to open up this bishop for the potential pins and also to open up our queen. Not just that, we are going to achieve also our setup this way. d3, and now really important move queen c7 because we would like to push move e5. And the very standard setup of white, they want a castle, they want to play bishop e3, put a knight on d2, then jump on c4, put a pressure on your weaknesses, and like take some actions on your bad pawn structure, which is true. Like black is having bad pawn structure, and computers are always liking here white. After castles, e5, the point of queen c7 move, and also queen c7 move is really flexible. Like in the Black Line, if you remember this move queen c7, you are controlling the middle, also controlling the e5 pawn, and the only other piece that can attack this pawn is the knight from c4, or this bishop on b2. But we also have a lot of pieces that can protect this pawn, like bishop on d6, and usually, whatever they usually play in the next moves, like let's say bishop e3, we are playing knight f6, and then this knight can also go back to d7 to protect this pawn. What is really important for this setup in Rosalimo attack in Sicilian is to not develop your bishop on g7. Yeah, you play the move g6, but we are not going to put this bishop on g7. Why? This bishop is simply better on e7 or on d6, specifically on e7, like in Black Lion, because you're controlling this diagonal and you are staying flexible, because on this line and this line, more control. Firstly, you have a weakness on c5. Secondly, this diagonal is better because it's aiming towards kingside. This is also possible, but it's not open, just because you have the pawn on e5. And the only way to open it requires on the white break. Is it with d4 or f4? So you cannot expect from them to open the center. That's why g6 can make you some confusion, but g6 you play at the very beginning because there is also variations that you can play after d takes d3, and now you can play move bishop g7, which is totally fine move, of course. But we are playing this way just because we're gonna set up Black Lion, so stay tuned. And now many people after the move knight f6, like in the Black Lion, will play the move h3 and block you of playing the move knight g4, so actually stop you. And now immediately we got some ideas here, just because we create a hook on g4 square. So imagine this pawn goes to g4, then we're gonna open up the g line. And that's why we play the move h6 here. So we are not developing the bishop, not this bishop, not going castle. Our king is completely safe in the middle. So we are actually creating the path for our pawn to get pushed. And sooner or later, we are going to achieve massive attack on the king side. This is also one of my games that recently played in one championship. Knight c3 is very bad move for white, because this knight is simply misplaced here, as you know, also from the Black Lion setups. This knight is much better to stay on a different spot, but I understand my opponent. Maybe he wanted to bring the knight on the other side of the board. That's the idea also. But I think a much better idea would be to just simply go with the knight on c4, and after you play something like bishop to e6, trying to stop this knight going there, because if he goes here, now I'm going to simply take, and the pawn is falling down, so black is now just much better. We got a pawn. So after bishop e6, they should play maybe something like queen e2, let's say bishop e7. So yeah, confusion, like you create a gap, but you're not putting your bishop here. That's the thing, because your bishop is very fluent here, and also because of the c5 pawn. You don't want to waste so much time playing b6 move, because white to push your pawns when you can play with your pieces, right? B3, and now they're creating the space for the knight, of course, because they are going to recapture the B pawn, which will be powerful for white to open up the B line. And here comes the attack, G5. So we are slowly creating the process with G4, knight C4, and now they're putting the pressure on E5. So we don't want to put a bishop here because they're going to simply capture our bishop. Yeah, as long as our bishop is staying on our side, this dark square bishop looks like a passive piece, but it's actually a great offender. So we don't want to lose this bishop at any cost. That's why we are bringing the knight to D7, and we're going to play f6, then this knight can regroup to g6 like in the Black Lion, and then we're going to plan the knight on f4, which is actually amazing position for us. This could be the possible way of playing. Also, instead of the move knight c3, is the move queen d2, which was I calculate this during the game. Queen d2, then queen c3, and then knight b2, then knight c4. Why queen c3? Because puts the pressure on these weaknesses. And in practice, I found this move so powerful, but this simply doesn't work because it's too slow. We're gonna create fast attack if they try to develop the queen this way. We are anyway bringing our knight back. This knight is very powerful piece when it comes to these pawns control. Then these pawns are controlling the center. It means no counterplay, and we can focus on our attack smoothly on the king side. Knight bd2 looks very natural, and now at this point rook g8. So like in the Black Lion, creating the attack, g5, g4, already white is thinking what's happening now. Like black king is in the center, black pieces are staying awkward, too passive. Like look at this knight, look at this queen behind. But actually they're not too bad because if something happens, like they're ready to boom, to do something, right? b3 or knight c4. Knight c4 actually is mistake because b5 is very powerful move in this case. This works tactically for black simply because after take, this pawn is not hanging on a5. You have the move b4, and this counterplays on the queen, and then simply the next move we take the knight. That's a free piece. If they try to take firstly with the rook, and you can just avoid trading by rook b8, still threaten the knight, and still threaten next move b4, because then the rook will be hanging later. I want to tell here that if they try to prepare this with b3, f5 is a really strong continuation, not even g5, and then when they go knight c4, we play f4, kick this bishop out of the way, and then g5. Look at this pawn formation. This is just beautiful. What can I say? This is just beautiful. And looks like this pawn is falling down, but apparently when they take bishop g7 and now black is totally winning, there is no useful discoveries, there is no useful checks discoveries, and they are losing the piece. So look at this fantastic piece coordination, and I just can't imagine how white can handle the next move, g4, that will happen like most probably in the next two moves. You can find today's PGN file about Rosalima G6 variation on my website. As usual, I'm going to put the link in the description. It's only $5, easy to use, easy to navigate. Let's continue with our video lecture today. So queen d2 is not good move also. Looks like a perfect move, coordinating the queen on c3, but it's very slow. So instead of h6, they should play knight bd2 and then play b3 and then plant immediately knight on c4. That's the best reaction. And also h3 is not the best reaction on the white side. Knight c3, like happened in the game, let's just see what happened later. I played the move g5, my opponent went knight h2, now I went rook g8, so I'm ready to push. And I was expecting here for my opponent to play something like g4 or f3. g4 looks interesting, but after h5, we are simply opening up this diagonal. Like if they take here, we just take on h3 and we achieve our goal. Like now the all pressure is happening on the king side. If they play f3 here or something, at least I was thinking of just playing normally here, such a bishop e7 or bishop e6, developing my pieces. I'm not really afraid that they can like regroup this knight here. I think this is not something that scares me too much. I can also just castle. If they try knight g3, I have c4, so already some counterplay happens in the middle. And even if they jump here, I can even eliminate this knight, because then this knight is totally bad piece, and look at this pressure in the middle. Suddenly I can even take, then focus on the h-line. It's a perfect position for black. So my opponent went knight g4, which is the the thing in the Black Lion opening, if you remember. Whenever they put a knight on g4, do not take with your knight, because your knight is really flexible on f6. Take it with a bishop. That's how you actually connect the openings. You see, we play Sicilian, and maybe you're a Black Lion player, so this is fantastic, connection. Taking here, and of course, like, that in the Black Lion you have already the knight on f4 because knight got regrouped. We lost this knight at the very beginning of the game, if you remember, in the Sicilian, but now we have at least this knight, and after h5 the position is getting dramatic. Okay, sorry, not immediately. Firstly, queen d7 to attack this pawn, force them to play the move f3, and now h5, because earlier h5 didn't work. Queen was guarding this square, so I made mistake. Queen d7, f3, and now h5, and now it's a perfect setup. G takes h5, knight takes h5, and our knight is ready to jump on f4 with pushing g4, opening up the g line. That's it. You're just in your favorite opening, right? Knight e2 looks like trying to defend, but after planting the knight on f4, if they try to do the same stuff with their knight on like f5, this is not so much scary, but it's annoying. I can say it's annoying, but g4 is already opening up everything. If they take you and try to rejump and use their knight as a powerful piece, by the way, this knight is good looking piece, but it's completely restricted and outshined by all dark squares that we control on the board, specifically with bishop and specifically with all our pawns. And look at their king. Something that can happen, they can try to put a pressure on your pawns, then you play bishop d6, and now you just try to quickly reorganize your pieces and go for checkmate on the h line, which is completely crushing white side, and that's it. Like, that's how you can play this opening and just quickly win the game. What can I say more about this? Of course, there is more things on this opening. Knight f6 here, like knight h3 is actually more precise because h3 creates the hook. And that's also like in the Black Lion. You cannot go for the h6 g5 attack if you don't have the hook of g4, because you cannot break the structure. So you need this hook, but many players, this is also the 2200 player that play against me, he actually played this pretty much fast. He didn't understand what can happen. But here you can play knight h5, and then maybe this knight will come on f4, which is also a good piece. Knight c4, f6, it's also the point of protecting the pawn with a pawn, since now the strategy is different. When you don't have the attack on the king side, you need to organize your pieces in the center. And let's say they play something like queen e2, play bishop e6, they play b3, play bishop e7, rook fe1, you can castle, and okay, you can try to stack your rooks on the f line. Maybe at some point you can push this move, you can reorganize your knight to the middle, maybe on d4, and anyway your position is perfect. And you can also play b6 to guard more of your pawns. Simply black is staying stable, white cannot break anything, and we are simply dominating here with our pawn structure. If you want to check the full Black Lion guide, you can do it here. I have all analyses here, simply looking like this opening. It's a perfect, and I'm recommending you Black Lion. Anyway, this is just one opening that looks like a Black Lion,